This story today blows my mind. He goes out into the wilderness, and he's out there alone for 40 days, Jesus is. And he meets the devil, or what they call the tempter, the tester. And in Mark, we're told there's some wild beasts out there. It's this wild story. And he's hungry, and there's this tester. It's bizarre. But what is going on? A couple of years ago, there was a study done in San Francisco, and they took a classroom, and a PhD said, hey, I'm going to administer a test to these kids, and the teachers know about it. And we're going to test and see which of these kids have the greatest potential for what they called intense academic bloom. So in other words, we're going to give a test to all these kids, and it would reveal which of these kids were like the brightest, had the best potential, like for to go up into the right their whole lives. So had like that intense intellectual bloom. They're going to be like the brightest kids in the future. Now, here was the real experiment, though. The test was actually fake. And the teachers didn't know it. And the students didn't know it. So the experimenters came in like, hey, we're going to give this test out. The test was fake. And then they just randomly, after it was over, they picked, these are the 10 kids that show the greatest sign for intense intellectual bloom. But it was all fake. But no one knew about it. So as you can imagine, the teachers heard, those 10? Oh, wonderful. And the teachers began to treat those kids accordingly. They began to show extra grace for those kids. Give more of their time and attention to those kids, and show them, extra sort of mercy. Like when those kids wouldn't get it, they're like, don't worry, you're so brilliant, you'll figure it out. It's okay, it's all good. And they begin to show them like this extra attention, time, and energy. Now, as you can imagine, those students like soaked that all in, and it began to affect their daily lives. In fact, it affected their test scores. Those kids who were treated like they had all this potential, their test scores went way up. Their IQ was impacted. Their IQ went up. All because they were treated as though, and maybe they did, have this potential for intellectual bloom. Now, what the study suggests, among other things, is that many times our behavior is dictated, or at least influenced by our identity. What we think is true about ourselves, or our place in the world, or our relationship to the divine, or in our case, God, what we think about that, what we think is true, oftentimes influences our behavior. Think about it. How you see yourself influences how you behave. Which is why many times when folks don't know who they are, when they don't have a clear picture of their identity, not just what they do, but who they are, they will behave in strange and erratic ways. Just go to college, right? You have all these kids who grew up in a home where their identity was in this bubble, if you will, which is a good thing. They leave that bubble, and they're like, whoa, I have no idea who I am. And they try everything. Like, those aren't all good ideas, right? So they have this strange and erratic behavior because what you think about your identity shapes oftentimes who you are and how you behave and how you act in the world. So I would always tell my kids when they were growing up, and I don't think I even did it on purpose, it was kind of accidentally. When they would grow up and when I would see them make a mistake, or when I'd correct their behavior, or when they would make a decision, I would just tell them, hey, one more thing. Look me in the eyeballs. Hey, you are my son. I love you. Or hey, I know I just had to yell at you and get after you, but also look me in the eyeball. You are my daughter. I love you. Now go. And by the way, I do this with all of you every single week as well. Because I hope when you come here, you get some good advice. That's fine. But friends, I'm not just here to give good advice. I'm here to proclaim the truth and good news of Jesus to you and in your life. And it looks like to me like this. At the end of every service, you'll hear me say, and you are the beloved sons and beloved daughters of God. You probably have heard me say this before. I'm reminding you who you are, independent of what you do, what you think, or what's happened in your past. I'm reminding you who you are. Are you with me? Sometimes it's good. Jesus in this story is out in the wild wrestling with his identity and how he will live in the world. What is his mission in life? How he will live, how he will bring the kingdom. And that's just been declared in chapter 3. One chapter earlier, we are told what his identity is. Here you go, I'll show you. So one chapter earlier, by the way, open your Bibles if you have them, Matthew 3 and 4. We're going to hang on 4, but here's 3. You can use your phone, I don't care. As soon as Jesus was baptized, he comes up out of the water. At that moment, heaven was opened. Imagine this. And he saw the Spirit of God descending on him like a dove, alighting on him. How bizarre is that? Here's the judgment of God. It comes as a peacekeeping or peacemaking dove. I love that. And a voice from heaven out loud apparently says, "This is my son with whom I love and I'm well pleased." How many of you had this happen at your baptism? Yeah, me neither. But his identity is declared. Notice this. What has Jesus done up to this point that would earn him this favor from God? How many sermons has he preached? I already told you the answer. How many sermons? 0. How many committees has he served on at the local synagogue? How many men's events did he attend up to this point? How many communion meals has he taken so far? How many Bible verses does he have memorized? Well, probably a lot, actually. He's a rabbi. He's a Jewish kid. He's done nothing. His ministry has not even begun. It's in the beginning, like infant stages. It's like this baby little thing. It's just now growing. We're like just sort of seeing what's going on. He's done nothing, and yet God declares, "This is my son with whom I'm well pleased." Why is he pleased with him? I don't know, man. He's his son. That's it.